Welcome to Free Range Flock. We were once the latchkey kids who came home to an empty house after school. We were feral, resilient, cynical, and innovative. Older than Google. Our teenage faces were never posted on social media. The internet was just an idea in our youth. Now we are older, wiser, and thriving. Our independent ways will continue to serve us. We plan to keep defying the odds, and we will carve our own path with grace, with humor, with joy, our way. We've been through some stuff. We will continue to keep pushing, and we are not going anywhere. The former latchkey kids are now the free range flock.
Sarah, imagine if I gave you $20 or Venmo you $20 right now. What would you do with it and why?
Oh, what a great question. You know what? I think I would take you out for a drink.
Love it. Well, $20 would probably get us one drink.
Well, yeah, but that would be a fun way to spend it.
Yeah, definitely be a fun way to spend it. If I had $20, like someone just said, hey, here's $20 on Venmo me $20, I would probably, I love the drink idea. I love that. That's a great one. But my head went to like buying a handbag.
Well, there you go.
I love buying handbags.
You do love handbags.
I do love a good handbag or a tote. I'm into totes right now, a good tote. Today we're talking about money, not necessarily how to make money or save money, but our relationship with money. It's a relationship that changes over time. So my relationship with money in my 20s is very different now than in my 50s. And I think about my son who spends every penny he has on Lego sets. His relationship with money is very different than mine. To him, money is burning a hole in his pocket. He's got to go buy that new Lego set. But for me, I focus on like making our household run. I'm saving for retirement, his college, and I'm trying to pay off our house. So we have a very different view of money, and how we message about money is very different. So, but when you start talking about money with other people, that can be very difficult because we all have different relationships with money. I can't assume that others around me have the same relationship with money that I do. So how we talk about money is a result of a lifetime of experience. So our emotion, our trauma, our stress, our worries, our successes, all that is wrapped up into our relationship. So, and we can't talk about money without sharing a bit of our experience. So Sarah, you talk a little bit about your relationship with money?
Oh my goodness. That's a hard subject for me.
I know.
And I'm good. I mean, this is one of those, making myself vulnerable moments.
No.
Because I have very much a relationship with money, like your son has a relationship with money. When I was his age, I also would, as soon as my allowance, as soon as I had it, I had to go spend it. I'm a very impulsive buyer. I am an emotional buyer. I tend to, and I've gotten myself into some financial, not trouble. I've never been in trouble, but I've definitely carried more debt in my life than I probably should have, just because I like experiences and I like that emotional boost you get when you buy something for yourself or for a friend,
right?
Or go have an experience like a trip. Those are all such a huge, I'm going to use the word dopamine, but it's kind of like that dopamine hit for your brain,
Right.
Because you get an emotional reaction from doing that. And so I learned that very early on. And I think, how good that kind of felt to buy something. And I've never been able to break the habit of being an emotional buyer. So my relationship with money is troubled. I'm trying to be better. I've gotten myself out of debt multiple times over my life. And so it's something I'm conscious of, but I don't have a very great relationship with finances.
There's room for improvement then, yeah.
Always. And we all have room for improvement. And that's probably one of my bigger life pain points.
My relationship with money, my parents never really talked about money a lot. It was something like adults do.
Right.
So I remember when I grew up in the 70s, my dad was adamant that he had to check the mail. So he didn't even let my mom get the bills out of the mailbox. He had to check the mailbox. And he would open the bills and then he would pay the bills. And it wasn't even discussion. It was like, he was the breadwinner. He gets to pay the bills, which was, I realize now, was very weird. But like when they divorced in my mom was 28 when they divorced. She never had a checking account. She never had anything in her own name. And she never wrote a check before. So she had to learn. And I was surprised. I wasn't surprised then. I'm surprised now that her parents never talked to her about it. But then it was always this thing that the adults do, and then you just kind of figure it out.
Yeah.
And so my parents never really talked to me about money in a real sense.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even get allowance. We didn't do allowance when we were kids. And so when I went to college at 18, and I was getting all these like credit card applications, and I'm like, I must be special because they're like wanting me to get those. And I remember I actually got several because I just thought, well, this is an opportunity to build some credit. And then since no one talked to me about it, I didn't handle it well. I went into debt. I was okay. I wasn't, I know that there's some situations where people have gotten themselves, made themselves homeless. I've always had a place to stay. I've always been able to buy groceries, that kind of thing. But I was spending more than I was making it. That was the general thing.
Yeah.
And then in my 20s and 30s, it was like, I want to have these new experiences, and I want to buy that dress, and I want to wear this and that. And then so I wasn't thinking about like saving for retirement or putting money away or savings. I was, once I pay my bills, I can go out and buy something.
Mm-hmm,
so now I'm in my 50s, it's a whole different ballgame. So I am, every penny, I'm very, I know where everything is. I did just stop using my check register this year. That's a big deal. So those millennials and Gen Zers out there who may be listening in this podcast, a check register is you would have a checkbook that you would write a piece of paper to check. The register is where you would write it down and tally things throughout. So you would actually tally that. And I was putting in my check register something, and my brother was like, "What are you doing? It is 2023. Why are you using a check register? Come on." And I was like, why am I using a check register? And so now I have on my phone, I have my bank app. So at any moment, I could tell you how much I have a bank account. Don't ask me because it's kind of sad. I use Venmo. So I've come a long way. I use the bill pay, so I don't write checks anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So, but now my mindset is all about making the household run, saving for retirement, and saving for his college. So it's like those are my main focuses.
Mm-hmm.
So when money comes in, I immediately sit down and go, okay, how can I do these things? And but playing and pleasure are very much backseat.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So we don't go out to eat a lot because going out to eat costs a lot of money.
So much money.
Oh my God, and having it delivered. Oh my God, don't even start on the fees. Oh my gosh. And so that's my relationship with money. But I'm realizing now that my 10-year-old is watching me, is listening to me. And sometimes he'll say things like, "Are we poor?" And I'm like, we're not. We live in a house. We have groceries. You have clean clothes on your body. You're watching this giant TV in our living room. We are not poor. But to him, he doesn't quite understand. And so you and I have been talking about the importance of money and messaging and talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
I realize now I've got to talk to him about these decisions that I'm making for the household. And I'm putting this much of money away every month for his college, and I'm putting this much away for my retirement. I'm not talking to him about it. So he just, whenever he says, can we do this? Can we go out to eat? I'm like, no, we can't afford it. We can't afford it. That's the most common thing I say to him. And I realize now I need to explain things. So now lately I've been so this is why I do this. I do this to pay for this. And you don't realize the number of expenses that come in. So I talk about how the expenses, but I don't want to scare him. because he's 10 and he needs to be a kid. And our finances are not scary. They're just complicated. So I need to really think about my messaging with that. But then I'm like a lot of people, a lot of free rangers out there, in that I've got parents. I'm in the sandwich generation. I'm a sloppy Joe for sure. So I've got the kid on one side who wants to buy Legos. I'm maintaining the house on the other end, but then I've got an aging parent and her relationship with money. So whenever you talk about money, it's always sticky and weird. And we always wait until crisis to start talking about it because no one wants to talk about it.
Yeah.
And then we wait too late. And then it's like, then you're in a kind of a desperate emotional state. So as a people, we need to get better about talking about money, and not just this is how much money this is, but like how we see money and how we use money. So to help us have this conversation around money, we thought it'd be helpful to bring in someone who actually knows something about money. So today we're talking to Cara Macksoud. She is a certified financial behavior specialist and the CEO of a company called Money Habitudes. And I have been exposed to Money Habitudes a while back. Money Habitudes is it's essentially a game that you play. When I was first introduced to it decades ago, it was a card game, but now it's an online game where you can play and ask you very interesting questions to help you find that money personality that you have and how you look at money and some of the challenges that your personality might have in some ways that you can grow and become more self-aware. So we wanted to bring her in to kind of talk about how to have better conversations around money as we're balancing lots of different things like kids and retirement and taking care of our aging parents.
Yeah.
Today, we're talking about money, in particular, money messaging, how we're talking about messaging. And we are honored to have our guest today, which is Cara Macksoud. She is a certified financial behavior specialist and the CEO of Money Habitudes. So she's going to tell us more about that. Thank you so much for joining us today, Cara.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
We're excited to learn some new stuff. So first and foremost, can you just introduce yourself to us?
Yes, hi. So I'm Cara Macksoud. As you mentioned, I'm the CEO of Money Habitudes. I just recently have finished my graduate degree in financial psychology, which is where the financial behavioral specialist comes in. And at this point, I focus on helping businesses bring money to the forefront of their conversation through our assessment tool. So facilitators, coaches, counselors, really, how do we bring that money conversation to the forefront because it has so much, value to our clients.
Right. So, this show is looking at the free rangers, those Gen X generation who are part of that sandwich generation, dealing with money on different fronts. And how we view money is tied to so many different aspects of our lives. I mean, we don't even think about it. How do you mind just explaining to our audience, how do attitudes and behaviors about money, how are they formed?
Yeah, so shockingly enough, they are formed a lot from the non-verbal messages that we see, just observe. And the American Psychological Association says that by the age of 7, we already have an idea of currency and its value and how money is interacting in the people around us, the relationship. So take a simple example. You come home from school, it's going to be the book fair tomorrow. You want to buy something at the book fair. You say to mom or dad or grandparent, depending on who's raising you, and you say, hey, can I have $5 for the book fair? And they say, absolutely not. We're not spending money on that. Or they say, absolutely, here's 20.
Yeah.
Now, there's no conversation about how that money was earned or what percentage of my money am I giving you,
right.
Or there's just a yes or a no. And for that child, that all of a sudden starts to make an association. When I ask, I get something,
right.
Or when I ask, I'm met with no. But that's not the conversation.
Right.
The conversation is, I want to go to the book fair. You're the keeper of the money. I'm coming to you. You give me a response. And now I create a story about why it worked the way it worked.
Okay. That's interesting.
It is interesting, and I never would have thought. I mean, I know we learn so many of our money habits from our parents, but I guess I'd never really thought about that narrative being so embedded so quickly. You know, that is very early.
Wow. It's making me think a lot as a mom, and like all the things I've said to my kid about when he asks me for money. He wants to buy Lego sets. So our personal relationships with money are very tricky. When we talked about this before, and you add in other people, and then you just create conflict. So Gen Xers are they're in between two very different generations when it comes to money. So we have our conservative boomer parents who are always carrying cash. My dad always had cash. I mean, you never not want to have cash in your wallet. I remember this, because I walked around without money all the time. He's like, you got to have cash. What if you get stuck and you got to go somewhere? And then you got the millennials and the Gen Zs who are like, Venmo me, just Venmo me. Can I PayPal you? I'm like, yeah, it's just like, I feel like we're in between two very different generations and we're trying to figure our way. And so, I sometimes play my dad in my head because I think I've got $1 in my wallet. I don't think I even have a lot of cash right now. But at work, someone would go get lunch and we need to pay them back. And I would try to hand cash to a Gen Zer and they're like, I don't want that.
What is
just
that?
Venmo me. I don't want to touch that dirty money. I just Venmo me. So we're in such different worlds and we're trying to figure it out. And so I have Venmo because the young ones at work forced me there. And then now I use it all the time and I'm like, this is the greatest thing.
Right.
But it's so interesting how they influence us. So as a sandwich generation, what strategies can you recommend for people who are trying to figure out about how to have conversations with money with others, with people with different generations?
What Venmo, PayPal, let's just group them all to Cash App, whatever, group them all together. What it's allowed people to do is not have a sticky conversation anymore, right? Because now I'll pay the bill, but now I'm sending you a Venmo request for what you owe me without any conversation.
Ooh.
And Venmo does the work of reminding the person that the request is there and you owe me money.
According to lendingtree.com, Gen X is financially wrecked. We have more debt than any other generation. And part of that is because when we were coming out of college, we were having a recession. So we walked into the workforce and we were already very strapped. So according to ARP, we're the most overlooked generation for promotions. So millennials and Gen Z are actually getting promotions before us. So you add in the debt, raising kids, taking care of parents, and now we're probably making less than people around us. That's a huge hole. Here at Cara, that's a huge hole. So what message do you have for our free-range flock when they're feeling overwhelmed with debt, but they're also thinking about how am I going to save for retirement and pay off debt and take off for people? I live it, so now I know the what's going on in my head. But how can you give us some comfort and message that a little bit about money?
Now we can't cry over spilled milk. So as we build the next generation, as the parent, let's have the right conversation with our kids so we set them up properly. Because what that'll do, which may not make sense a lot now because we have maybe younger kids, but it'll stop the fact that we feel we need to support our adult children, adding more debt to our bottom line.
Let me ask you one more question. So, Money Habitudes, which is the company that you're the CEO, it has a questionnaire that has such an interesting process. And that is you play. When I first got introduced to it was decades ago by Sybil Sullivan, and it was a card game. Now it's this lovely online game, which very easy to do, and you can figure out what your money messaging personality is around that.
Correct.
Sarah and I both played it, so we want you to talk a little bit about it. I think it's really interesting how the questions are formed and how it makes you think about money. So can you talk a little bit about this questionnaire, this assessment?
Absolutely. And before we get started, did you both relate to your results, or were you both like, this is not me?
No, mine results were spot on.
Oh, mine too.
So that's the idea, right? Like the idea of the assessment is that we're not asking you about your budget. We're not asking you about what kind of a spender you are, if you're like conservative or you're loose or right. It's what is happening primally every single day in your life with your money. Mm-hmm. Because more than what you think you are habitually who you are. Right. And without even conscious thought, we do things that we do without even realizing we do it. We have our money messages that we got mostly from childhood that have developed over time. And we don't even know why we think the way we do. And now we're reacting on those thoughts in a way that makes no sense. So one of my favorite statements in the Money Habitudes assessment is, do you buy what you need or do you buy what like the cheapest item that you can find is? That's not the exact wording, but it's similar. And I always think I love to cook. I cook a lot without fail. A peeler from Dollar Tree like every other week because they're cheap and they're not good and they fall apart. And everybody says to me, Cara, just go spend the money and go buy the $25 like chef's like peeler.
Yeah.
And the thought of spending $25 on a peeler like literally makes my skin crawl. Yet I'm 45 years old. I have probably spent $500 on cheap Dollar Tree peelers. How ridiculous is that?
But your money personality just won't let you do it.
Won't let me do it, right? And so the assessment tool allows you to assess, is this working or is it not? There's no right or wrong answer. There's no, you need to be this because this is what it's going to be, blah, blah, blah. If it's working for you, do more of it.
Right.
Not working for you. Now we've given you categories in which you can look at and say, okay, what's not working for me? What do I need more of? And what do I need less of to get this thing to be a balance? The beauty of Money Habitudes, unlike some of the other money personalities, let's say quizzes or tools that are out there, we don't put you in a box. We're not saying, oh, you're this or you're this. We say, here's the 6 domains that govern our money, and this is where you kind of fall in each of them, and they work together in tandem. And they support one another.
Right.
So somebody who's dominant in giving, for instance, that's also the person who, when I speak with them, they give their time, they give their energy. They're the ones that are saying, oh, I'm babysitting for a sister or a cousin. I'm doing this for my parents. They're the sibling that is doing it for the whole family.
Right.
And they're often depleted, not just monetarily, but they're just depleted.
That's interesting.
So how is that working for them? If they really get a joy of giving, but they really don't feel supported because they don't have security anywhere from anyone else or themselves.
What I found interesting about the assessment, so preparing to talk to you, I played the card game again and actually played it in front of my son. And then I let him play it. I go through the cards and answer them and put them in piles. The questions are so interesting that I'm like, it's having a money conversation in a way that you didn't think that you were having a conversation about. And I had to explain some of my answers to my son. He's like, well, why would you do that? And I'm like, I've never explained that to him before. So to me, it's not just the output that was interesting. Right. And Sarah and I are going to share what our results are at the end of the program. But the questions are so interesting because it's like, and it's like your peeler example. It's like, I'm not going to buy a $25 peeler. I'd rather spend $500 because what I enjoy is that activity around that pursuit. But someone watching you do that, this thinks, well, they're just crazy. No, there's actual methodology and rationale and all that behind it. So, it helps to explain who you are, your money personality. Yeah,
and how you function with your money, how you started off our session with talking about all those associations, right? So someone sees you do that. And so let's put the kid back in the room who sees you buy the $1.25 peeler and someone else comes in the room and says, why don't you just buy the $25 one? And you're like, has the kid then interpreted, oh, we must be poor.
Yeah.
We can't buy the $25 one.
Yeah, yep. And my son's done that to me too. He's like, are we poor? I'm like, we live on a budget. Everyone lives on a budget. We have a certain amount of things. Yeah. I think we could talk all day about this, Cara, all day. But unfortunately, we got to reel this in. But I so enjoy talking to you about this. But I think that money is very messy.
Yes.
It's very, very messy. But the important message that I'm getting from you is that we need to talk more about it. Like not just, how much money I have and what I want you to do with it, but our relationship with money and how we view money and how we use money.
And all the people that are associated with you and your money.
Yeah, you got to talk about it more and you got to explain yourself more. And yeah, it's important.
And make sure no one tells you you're wrong. Just your moment when you just said it before about someone might think you're crazy. If anybody's read that Morgan Housel, The Psychology of Money book, the first opening line he has is no one is crazy. It's your money. You have your beliefs. You're allowed to have them.
Right.
Right. And no one is going to have the exact same beliefs about money.
Nope.
I mean, even if they're aligned closely, there's going to be differences.
Absolutely. You see it with siblings all the time. We're raised in the same home with the same parents.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Cara.
Thank you, Cara. We really enjoyed our conversation.
It's good to hear you, and you're giving us some great things to think about. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Cara mentioned the Money Habitudes questionnaire during our interview, and to help us prepare for this, Sarah and I went online and took the questionnaire. I took it a while back, and then I did it before talking to Cara to get ready, but I did the online one, and it was actually really easy. It's like less than 40 questions.
Yeah, it was very quick.
Yeah, and the questions were things like, do you find that would you buy something off-brand at the grocery store, that kind of a thing. It was very pointed questions that I'd never thought about before. And I actually loved the questions more than the answer, because I think the questions always intrigue me, where are they going with this? So, but when I took it, my personality was, they labeled the personalities with different names, and the one that labeled me was a planner. So it said that I'm very intentional, I have clear goals, but sometimes I can feel pressured by others to spend money that I haven't budgeted. So I have every month a clear budget, and I'm going to spend this on this, and this on groceries, and this on fun. I mean, I have it. And if someone says, hey, let's go out and do this, I'm thinking, that's not really in my budget. So, and I can have maybe I'll make an excuse I'm going to feel sick that day, or I'm not going to be able to do that. So, but yeah, that's how I look at money. What was your result, Sarah?
Well, as I was talking about earlier, I have I'm a very impulsive person with money. And so that it was reflected in my personality scores. And whereas you seem to have a very clear, you're a planner, I was actually kind of spread out over 3 different ones that were almost equal across the board. And it was spontaneous, giving, and carefree.
Okay.
And so the spontaneous and carefree and giving, actually, none of those really surprised me because they kind of go along with my personality.
Right.
And my relationship with money. I don't have a very structured, budgeting outlook like you do. And it's partially because I never learned. I was never, my parents were terrible budgeters, and so I learned bad habits. But also, it's, again, I'm spontaneous, and I look at that emotional. I'm an emotional money person. So that reflected perfectly for me.
Interesting. Did you find yourself discussing your results with other people, besides me?
Not really. Money's hard to talk about.
Yeah.
And it's not one of those things that because I think partially I'm a little embarrassed about my money habits. I try to do better. I'm trying to do better, but
Right.
it's one of those things. I'd rather talk about almost anything else.
Right. But I think it's because we're not talking about it. It's creating some of the issues.
Yes.
And during the episode, she shared several different examples, especially if someone passes away, and we've all gone through this where someone has passed away, and then you're taking care of someone who's, at the end of their life. you're now dealing with their relationship with money. And that's when really gets sticky is when you're talking and both people assume that they have the same relationship with money and you're arguing. To me, the big message here is we have to talk more about money.
Yeah.
We have to. And it's just like the stigma of mental health has been addressed because now I'll talk about it. We also have to talk about money.
Agreed.
And we have to share what our practices are, why we do what we do. When I was filling out the questionnaire, I found like my son should know my answer and why my answer is that way. And I haven't talked to him about that. So I want to walk away from this episode and decide, okay, I'm going to talk differently about money and more. Like my money personality is not going to change anytime soon, but there's reasons why I do what I do. But if you came in behind me, you wouldn't understand. And they need to understand that. Because if I, God forbid, if I get older and my son has to step in and intervene, he may question some of my choices, but this is I need to talk about it more.
Yeah, exactly. Giving that rationale of why you're doing the things that you're doing,
right?
And I mean, Cara mentioned that a lot of those financial lessons are starting to be embedded into our children's brains as early as age 7.
Yeah,
and so it makes sense that we start having those conversations early and often. And I wish my parents had been able to do that.
Right.
I would have, maybe made some different choices, through my life with money.
Right. I mean, if I can go back, I would say my parents should have talked to me about the fact that when I go to college, I'm 18 and I'm independent on my own, that all these credit card companies are going to see me as vulnerable and go after me. And that I should take that flyer and put it in the recycling.
Oh, yeah.
I need to, just don't think about trying to establish credit when you're 18, 19, 20, live within your means, but you don't have to have a credit card when you're that age. But I think that for a lot of the free rangers out there, that a lot of our parents didn't talk to us about what was going on. And I'm sure their parents didn't talk to them, so it wasn't norm, but when you can't rely on society to educate your kids about how to pay their bills and their money, because we live in a consumer society. And, I was listening to the news this morning. It was like, we're doing great because people are going out and buying more. And unfortunately, we live in a society that's measured by the success of consumerism and buying more stuff. But that adds up at the end of the day. So we need to be talking to our kids about and to ourselves and to others around us about money.
Oh, agreed. And I think, going down the rabbit hole to what you were just saying about stuff, that whole we're a consumeristic society. I don't know if you've ever seen the short animation. It's probably about 10 or 15 minutes long, but it's called The Story of Stuff. Have you ever seen that?
I think I have.
It's really good. And it talks about how we became such a consumeristic society, and that we've gone from an agrarian society to a manufacturing society, but now the manufacturing it's because people weren't buying enough, because things were made too well. We make things to break, and it's just the cycle of you need more, you need the latest thing,
right? And
it's just kind of like we need to have those kinds of conversations with our kids,
right?
That you don't need to have all the things.
Right, exactly. And just people around us and talking about money. And we talk often about how things are changing so quickly. Like, I don't use a bank register anymore, and I now pay all my bills online. And when I go out and Sarah spends money on me, I'm like, I'm going to Venmo you $10 because you spent $10 on me. So things are different, and we're now quickly going to a cashless society where we're not going to, there's some places that will not take cash.
Exactly.
And I worry about my older generations who are they're all about cash. And they write you a check. They're not going to know how to function.
Yeah.
And so, if you are out there and you are like, I write my checks every month and I sit down and fill out my register. It's time to think about, who do I need to talk to about changing that approach? Because soon, now, most of my bills don't get mailed to me because I'm paperless. So it's just they're going to assume that you're going to log into their portal, find out what to do. And if you don't have computer skills or what have you, you're going to get lost. So, cash used to be king, and having money is good. But now's the time to think about, like, how am I going to use money differently?
Mm-hmm.
And who am I going to talk to feel safe about this?
Yeah.
So one option could be going to your bank and saying, hey, I want to start using online pay. Can someone teach me how to use this and give me some best strategies here?
There's some good resources out there too. I think your bank is definitely a good place to start. You might also talk to your local senior center to see if they have any technology classes that you could participate in. It's all baby steps. Maybe you start off with just working with your bank,
right?
And then expand out and download a cash app or a Venmo or a PayPal and do that. And eventually you will become more comfortable in that digital space. And I find that I'm actually much more conscious about my spending digitally than I am with cash.
Oh,
if I have cash in my wallet, I just spend it and it's gone. But if I have, it's a bit digital thing, I'm making an intentional, like, okay, I'm actually spending that $20.
Right.
I can see it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. So now's the time to, if you are finding yourself lagging in how, the digital way of using money, now's the time to find someone that you trust and talk about it, and, explore your personality with money, how you're talking about money with others. But if you believe that cash is king and you're only using cash, now's the time to start talking about someone to help you get to the other side. The dark side.
The dark side.
It's not the dark side.
That's so funny. And also remember that other people, you can talk to other people about resources and about, good spending habits and things like that. But you are the person that has to recognize the relationship you have with money and how to spend your money. Yes. You are the only person that can make that decision.
Exactly. That's a big message there.
Yeah.
That was interesting. I need to pull up my app and see how much money I got.
Well, let us know what your favorite online app is, either to track your spending or to send your friends money when they, need to. So thanks for listening. Thank you for joining us for Free Range Flock. Our goal is to inspire and celebrate who we are, the Generation X kids who grew up and decided to do things their way, with grace, humor, and joy. This has been a production of Sassy Am. If you want to learn more about our podcast, follow our blog, share your positive insights about being a free ranger, or to suggest topics or guests for future episodes, please visit our website at sassayam.com. That's SASSAYAM.com. Keep pushing.